Desire is one of the most profound forces within us, a bridge between what is and what could be. But how do we discern when our longing is a gift from the divine, and when it is merely a reflection of our personal wants? Today, let us explore the 4 signs that a desire for someone arises not from ourselves, but from God. 1. It brings peace, not turmoil. When a desire originates from God, it carries a sense of peace even amidst uncertainty. This peace isn't the absence of challenge, but the presence of trust, a quiet assurance that the connection is right, whole, and purposeful. Desires rooted in ego, by contrast, often leave us restless, consumed by doubt or need. 2. It aligns with love, not possession. God's desires for us are never about taking or controlling, they are about giving and expanding. If your longing for someone pushes you to honor their essence, to uplift their spirit, and to see them flourish even without you, then it reflects divine love, not personal craving. 3. It leads you closer to God. A God-given desire doesn't distract you from your spiritual path, it enhances it. If your feelings for someone deepen your relationship with God, inspire gratitude, and encourage you to live a life of integrity, then they are likely divinely inspired. Ego-driven desires often pull us away from our higher selves, trapping us in illusions of lack or dependency. 4. It endures beyond emotion. Desires of the heart, when anchored in God, transcend fleeting emotions. They persist through seasons, trials, and the changing tides of life. Such desires aren't a passing flame, but a steady light, one that calls us toward growth and deeper understanding. Desires, when they arise from God, are not demands but invitations, opportunities to grow, to serve, and to experience the divine within ourselves and others. May we learn to listen, to discern, and to follow the desires that call us closer to love, to peace, and to purpose. Desire is a powerful force, an intricate thread woven into the fabric of our lives. It propels us forward, shapes our choices, and often defines our sense of purpose. Yet the nature of desire is paradoxical. It can liberate or bind, illuminate or obscure, depending on its origin. What if, rather than a simple human longing, our deepest desires are whispers from the divine, beckoning us towards something greater than ourselves? Consider the possibility that desire is not inherently flawed, but a sacred compass, pointing us toward our true nature and connection with others. There is a profound difference between the restless cravings of the ego and the gentle pull of something eternal. Ego-driven desires are rooted in lack, in the belief that we are incomplete, striving to possess, dominate, or fill a void. These desires often lead to a cycle of dissatisfaction, for no external achievement or relationship can fully satisfy an inner void. Divine desires, however, transcend the fleeting nature of worldly longing. They are not about acquiring, but about becoming. When we experience a desire that feels pure, peaceful, and enduring, it may not be our own creation at all. It could be the divine reaching through us, guiding us toward a purpose we might not yet fully comprehend. Such desires are not frantic, they do not demand immediate gratification. Instead, they invite us into patience, trust, and surrender. How do we recognize these divine threads woven into our lives? First, they often come with a sense of harmony and peace, even in the face of uncertainty. There is no urgency to control or force outcomes, no anxiety about their fulfillment. These desires feel natural, as if they have always been a part of us, waiting for the right moment to emerge. Second, divine desires call us toward connection, not possession. They inspire us to honor and uplift others, to recognize the divine in them rather than seeking to claim them for ourselves. A desire for another person, when born of divinity, respects their autonomy and seeks their growth, even if it requires letting go. It is not about what they can provide us, but about what we can create together in service of something greater. Finally, these desires lead us closer to God, or whatever we may call the transcendent source of all things. They deepen our sense of awe, gratitude, and purpose. They challenge us to grow into better versions of ourselves, to shed selfishness and embrace love in its purest form. This process is often uncomfortable, as divine desires push us beyond our comfort zones and challenge our attachments. Yet they also transform us, revealing a deeper truth about who we are and why we are here. The divine thread of desire is not a demand but an invitation. It beckons us to follow, not with certainty of where it will lead, but with faith that its origin is holy. I had to recognize and embrace these desires is to step into the flow of life as it was meant to be an unfolding journey toward unity, purpose, and infinite love. Desire is often seen as fleeting, a transient emotion driven by personal wants and needs. But what if certain desires, instead of being mere reflections of our human cravings, are echoes of something eternal? What if they are the stirrings of the soul, resonating with a divine melody that calls us toward our higher purpose? Such desires do not vanish with the passage of time. Instead, they persist, deepening and growing as they connect us to something greater than ourselves. When you feel a profound longing for someone, it is worth asking, is this desire a reflection of your ego or a recognition of a shared spark of the divine? Ego-based desires tend to be transactional, focused on what we can gain or how someone can fulfill our personal needs. They are fleeting because they rest on impermanent things, physical attraction, material benefits, or the need for validation. But when a desire is rooted in eternity, it transcends these superficial dimensions. It becomes about connection, growth, and unity. A desire born of the eternal is not about possession, it is about recognition. It is as though your soul, in encountering another, perceives a piece of the divine in them. This recognition sparks a longing not to own or control, but to honor, uplift, and walk beside them on the journey of life. Such a connection feels sacred because it reminds you of the truth that we are all interconnected, reflections of a greater whole. These eternal echoes manifest in ways that are both subtle and profound. They bring a sense of peace, even amidst longing, because they are not about immediate gratification. Instead, they invite patience and trust in the unfolding of time. They challenge you to rise above selfishness, to become more compassionate and selfless. Such desires are transformative. They inspire you to grow into a better version of yourself, guided not by what you lack, but by what you are called to become. Moreover, desires that echo eternity align with love in its purest form. Love, at its core, is not self-serving. It is expansive, seeking the well-being and flourishing of another without demanding anything in return. This type of love is not easy. It requires letting go of ego, embracing vulnerability, and trusting in something greater than yourself. But in doing so, it brings you closer to the divine essence that flows through all things. To discern whether a desire is an echo of the eternal, consider its fruits. Does it bring you closer to peace, gratitude, and humility? Does it inspire you to love unconditionally and to live more authentically? Does it persist through the challenges of life, refusing to be extinguished by time or circumstance? If so, it may be a divine whisper, calling you to follow its path, not for your own sake alone, but for the sake of something much larger. These desires, when recognized and embraced, are gifts. They remind us of our sacred interconnectedness and guide us toward the truth that we are part of a vast, eternal love. In following them, we do not lose ourselves, we find the essence of who we truly are. In a world overwhelmed by noise, the still, small voice often goes unheard. We live amidst constant chatter, both external and internal, filled with demands, opinions, doubts, and distractions. Yet, deep within each of us, there exists a quiet whisper, a voice that speaks without urgency or clamor. This voice, often attributed to the divine, carries the wisdom and truth we seek but so rarely pause to hear. It is subtle, never forceful, but profoundly transformative when we learn to listen. The noise around us is relentless, but it is the noise within that poses the greatest challenge. Our thoughts race, our fears shout, and our desires clamor for attention. We become so entangled in the narratives we construct about who we are and what we need that we overlook the gentle nudge of the still, small voice. Unlike the noise of the ego, which thrives on urgency and self-interest, this voice invites reflection, patience, and humility. It is not concerned with fleeting satisfaction, but with the enduring truths that shape our lives and relationships. Recognizing this voice requires deliberate quiet and intentional stepping away from the noise. In moments of solitude, prayer, or contemplation, we create space for this voice to emerge. It may come as a feeling of peace when we least expect it, a sudden clarity in the midst of confusion, or a persistent knowing that refuses to fade. It does not compete for attention, it waits patiently for us to notice. And when we do, its guidance is unmistakable. The still, small voice often speaks in paradoxes, inviting us to let go when we feel the urge to hold on, to trust when fear takes hold, to act in love when it feels easier to protect ourselves. It does not promise comfort, but offers meaning. It does not shield us from challenges, but gives us the strength to face them with grace and integrity. Following its guidance often requires courage because it calls us to transcend the limits of our ego and step into a greater sense of purpose. In the context of relationships and desire, this voice helps us discern between what we want and what is truly meant for us. It reminds us that love is not about possession, but about honoring the divine in another. It guides us to seek not what serves our own needs alone, but what nurtures mutual growth, understanding, and harmony. It whispers that true connection is never forced but unfolds naturally in alignment with a higher plan. To hear this voice is to tune into the deeper currents of life, to trust in the wisdom of a source far greater than our own. It is a call to be still, to quiet the chaos within, and to recognize that amidst the noise there exists a profound silence where truth resides. This silence is not empty, it is full of the answers we seek, the direction we need, and the love that sustains us. In learning to listen, we discover not just guidance, but the very essence of who we are meant to be. When we hold on too tightly to anything, be it a person, a dream, or a particular outcome, our grip often stems from fear. We are afraid of the unknown, of the emptiness that might follow if we loosen our control. But in this grasping, we risk distorting what we seek to preserve. Love can turn into possession, desire into obsession, and ambition into anxiety. The very act of clinging can smother what we long to protect, making it slip further away. Letting go does not mean abandoning your desires or resigning yourself to indifference. It is instead a profound act of trust. It is the willingness to release your need to control outcomes and trust that life, in its infinite wisdom, will unfold as it should. This trust is not passive, it requires courage and faith, for it often asks us to walk into uncertainty with an open heart. The paradox of letting go is that what is truly meant for us often finds its way into our lives when we stop striving to force it. When we release our grip, we create space for growth, for transformation, and for divine intervention. Letting go allows love to be freely given and received, untainted by the demands of ego. It allows relationships to evolve naturally, unhindered by fear or possessiveness. Letting go feels like a contradiction. How can we release something we deeply desire without losing it entirely? How can we loosen our grip on what we love while still cherishing its presence in our lives? This is the paradox of letting go. The act of releasing is not a surrender to loss, but an invitation to discover freedom, clarity, and a deeper connection to the divine. When we hold on too tightly to anything, be it a person, a dream, or a particular outcome, our grip often stems from fear. We are afraid of the unknown, of the emptiness that might follow if we loosen our control. But in this grasping, we risk distorting what we seek to preserve. Love can turn into possession, desire into obsession, and ambition into anxiety. The very act of clinging can smother what we long to protect, making it slip further away. Letting go does not mean abandoning your desires or resigning yourself to indifference. It is instead a profound act of trust. It is the willingness to release your need to control outcomes and trust that life, in its infinite wisdom, will unfold as it should. This trust is not passive, it requires courage and faith, for it often asks us to walk into uncertainty with an open heart. The paradox of letting go is that what is truly meant for us often finds its way into our lives when we stop striving to force it. When we release our grip, we create space for growth, for transformation, and for divine intervention. Letting go allows love to be freely given and received, untainted by the demands of ego. It allows relationships to evolve naturally, unhindered by fear or possessiveness. In this act of release, we also free ourselves. We free ourselves from the burden of needing to control every detail, from the exhaustion of trying to predict or manipulate outcomes. We open ourselves to peace, knowing that the responsibility for the future does not rest solely on our shoulders. The divine, or the flow of life itself, carries a wisdom far greater than our own. Trusting in this greater force is an act of surrender, not weakness, but strength. Letting go does not erase the longing within us, it transforms it. When we let go of our need to possess, our desire becomes purer, less about what we can gain and more about what we can give. It becomes less about outcomes and more about presence, being fully alive in the moment, appreciating what is without demanding it be something else. Ironically, in letting go, we often find what we were seeking all along. The love we feared losing becomes more vibrant, the dreams we released begin to take shape, and the connection we yearn for deepens in authenticity. Letting go is not the end of desire, but the beginning of its truest expression, unburdened by fear and aligned with the eternal flow of life. Through this paradox, we discover that to release is not to lose, but to gain in ways we could never have imagined. Love is often described in finite terms, as if it was something we can measure, possess, or exhaust. But true love, the kind that transcends fleeting emotions or personal gain, is far more profound. It is not bound by conditions, time, or space. Instead, love is a reflection of the infinite, a reminder of our connection to something far greater than ourselves. In its purest form, love is the closest we come to understanding the divine. When we experience love, we are not just engaging in a human emotion, we are participating in a sacred act. Love reveals the interconnectedness of all things, dissolving the illusion of separation. It calls us to see the divine spark within ourselves and others, a spark that mirrors the infinite source from which all life flows. This recognition is transformative. It shifts our perspective from I to we, from self-centeredness to a deep awareness of unity. Infinite love does not seek to own or control. It is not transactional, hinging on what we can gain in return. Instead, it gives freely without expectation. This is not to say that love is devoid of boundaries or discernment, but rather that its essence is rooted in generosity and selflessness. True love desires the flourishing of another, even when it comes at a personal cost. It reflects the divine nature of giving, which is abundant and unending. Such love challenges us to grow. It is not always easy or comfortable, for it requires vulnerability, humility, and courage. To love deeply is to open oneself to the possibility of pain, but also to the certainty of transformation. In loving, we are refined, stripped of our ego, and invited into a greater understanding of what it means to be human. Through love, we learn patience, compassion, forgiveness, and resilience. In moments of profound love, we catch glimpses of eternity. Time seems to pause, and the worries of the world fade away. What remains is a sense of awe, a quiet understanding that we are part of something vast and mysterious. These moments remind us that love is not merely a human construct, but a divine truth woven into the fabric of existence. To love as a reflection of the infinite is to embrace life in its fullness, with all its joys and sorrows. It is to acknowledge that we are both limited and limitless, human and divine, bound and free. Through love, we touch the eternal, and in doing so, we find our truest selves. Harmony is often imagined as a state of inner balance, a personal achievement of peace and order. But true harmony transcends the boundaries of the self, extending into our relationships, communities, and connection with the divine. It is not a solitary accomplishment, but a shared symphony, where every note complements the other to create something greater than any single part. Harmony beyond the self is an invitation to step outside our personal desires and fears, aligning ourselves with the rhythm of life and the greater good. At its core, harmony is about relationships, how we interact with others, with the natural world, and with the unseen forces that guide existence. When we focus solely on ourselves, we often lose sight of this interconnectedness. The ego thrives on separation, encouraging us to view others as competitors or obstacles. It fosters a mindset of scarcity, where our gain is perceived as someone else's loss, but true harmony emerges when we recognize that life is not a zero-sum game. It is a web of connections where every action reverberates across the whole. To achieve harmony beyond the self, we must cultivate empathy and understanding. This begins with listening, not just hearing words, but truly listening to the needs, concerns, and perspectives of others. When we listen with an open heart, we break down the barriers that isolate us. We start to see others not as adversaries, but as fellow travelers on the journey of life, each carrying their own burdens and seeking their own joy. In this recognition, compassion takes root, and harmony begins to flourish. Harmony also requires humility, the willingness to admit that we do not have all the answers and that our perspective is not the only valid one. It asks us to let go of the need to control every outcome and instead trust in the wisdom of collective effort. When we collaborate with others, blending our strengths and compensating for each other's weaknesses, we create a synergy that is far more powerful than any individual effort. This is the essence of harmony, the merging of diverse voices into a unified song. Beyond human relationships, harmony extends to our connection with the natural world. The earth operates in cycles of balance, where every element has a role to play. When we live in harmony with nature, respecting its rhythms and limitations, we find that it provides abundantly for our needs. But when we act out of greed or ignorance, we disrupt this balance, causing harm not only to the environment but also to ourselves. True harmony calls for stewardship, a commitment to care for the earth as a sacred trust. Perhaps the deepest expression of harmony is found in our relationship with the divine. To live in harmony with the divine is to align ourselves with the values of love, justice, and humility. It is to seek guidance not from our limited understanding, but from the eternal wisdom that permeates all things. This alignment brings a profound sense of peace, for it reassures us that we are part of something infinitely greater than ourselves. When we trust in this greater plan, we are freed from the anxieties and insecurities that arise from trying to control life on our own. Harmony beyond the self does not mean the absence of conflict or struggle. On the contrary, it acknowledges that life is full of challenges. But it also recognizes that these challenges are opportunities for growth and reconciliation. Harmony is not static, it is dynamic, constantly adapting to new circumstances. It requires effort, patience, and the willingness to forgive not just others, but also ourselves. Ultimately, harmony beyond the self is about unity. It is about realizing that our individual well-being is inextricably linked to the well-being of others and the world around us. It is about creating a life that resonates with truth, love, and purpose, not just for our own sake, but for the sake of all. In this pursuit, we discover that harmony is not a destination, but a way of being, a journey that transforms us and the world we inhabit.